Hello and welcome to Re-enthused. Today we are taking a look at these, which are Amstrad emailer devices. Now Amstrad released the emailer in originally 2000, although these models, this is the Plus which came out in 2002, and this is the E3 which came out in 2004. So they're slightly updated models to that original one. But they were designed to kind of replace your telephone, and they acted as, well, as the name implies, an emailer, but also as a telephone and an answering machine, and also things like games and web browsing. Which it's an interesting device, but the time frame they were released in is really when the internet had already taken hold for most people, and people already had devices at home to use the internet if they were ever going to. So the idea of web browsing on this small screen with a very restricted browser didn't really work. Plus, around that time frame, especially in the UK where these are released, we were just getting kind of all the free internet services coming out, so you had free phone numbers that you could dial up to, because it was, yes, dial up then rather than broadband. You had to literally use a modem to phone up the place you were being served the internet from. So that made the internet experience a lot cheaper, whereas these, basically everything this did required you to phone a premium number. Sending text messages, sending emails, receiving emails, polling for emails, and browsing and everything, and playing any of the games required you to connect to Amstrad servers, and that had a price per minute of, I think, like average 12 pence per minute, so they weren't cheap. So we'll take a quick look. There's not a great deal we can do because obviously, like I say, they've connected to Amstrad servers which no longer exist. They've been shut down for quite a while now. So things like playing the games, which I'll explain a bit more when we get there, I can't do. I am working out ways to fix this. I just haven't got anything in place just yet, but I will do it. Now there are known ways to do it. You can replace, because this is basically a machine that's running Linux or Linux, if you want to pronounce it. And one of the solutions are to replace this with a more open version of Linux, and it will use the screen and stuff. But I don't want to do that. I want to try and get this working as is and basically simulate the AmServe services. It's not easy, but I'm pretty sure it's possible, and it's going to take a little bit of work. But anyway, I digress. Let's take a little look at the hardware as it is, and then we'll turn it on. Just this one. This one is not working, although it's working, but the screen is buggered. I'm trying to fix it at the moment. I've kind of improved it slightly in the fact you can see most of the screen now, but it's not quite there. So this one is quite interesting because this one has also got video chat, which I remember when it came out first, when BT first announced it, it was very futuristic. But it didn't have a lot of pickup because it was quite expensive, and this is no different. But yeah, so that actually still works, although it's hard to see because of the screen. Anyway, let's take a look at the hardware. So on this one we have this lovely screen here, which is monochrome, although there's quite a few shades of grey, I think, in there. So it's quite a very nice screen. It's very clear, you'll see. Just loads of standard kind of telephony things. Obviously a little keyboard here for when you're doing text messages, and a few action buttons. So you've got turning the voicemail on off, the services button which brings up a menu, which I'll show you later, and things like web button, AmServe, and like that. But it's also, underneath here, got another keyboard. So yeah, so you've got like a keyboard that comes out like that on a small wire. It's not a very long wire, but there's that, and it's got a few other options, including the games menu, which again I'll show you later, and a few other features to get you straight into email and stuff. So it's quite interesting. But this connector, so you'll see this is actually a game controller that came with it. So this has got this, which is like a pass-through. So if you wanted to use the game controller, you unclip that, plug this in there, and then plug that into the pass-through thing. So there you go. So then you've got, so that's plugged into the keyboard, and you've got the controller. The controller feels horrible. It's really light, but it's also kind of back heavy because of the wire. And yeah, the buttons feel like junk, and this just feels really odd. It's kind of like a cross between a joystick and a joypad, so it's got like a slightly raised surface. It's very odd to use, and these are horrible and spongy. But anyway, that's the system's, the least of the system's issues. See, my thing with Amstrad is that what they tended to do is wait until a technology was cheap enough to make it, mass produce it cheaply, and then they made a version of it for the home. The versions they made are usually okay. I mean, they're not a terrible company in terms of building products and designing products, but by the time they released it, that technology was generally almost on its way out because they waited long enough for it to get cheap. So Clive Sinclair, which if you're young enough or you're not from this country, effectively kickstarted the home computing craze in England with his ZX80, ZX81 and Sinclair Spectrum computers. He tended to try to take like cutting edge and like beyond cutting edge technology and try to make them cheap enough, which is probably the reason why he ended up going bust and Alan Sugar didn't. But hey, one way breeds innovation, one way is good business sense. You kind of need a combination of the both, and yeah, neither of them really had that. So, yes, well, that's the basic. I mean, it's the handset. It's a phone, which is a bit rattly. It's also had some munches taken out of it by some kind of animal. I suspect a dog. So he took a liking rather than a disliking to it. Right. Let's turn this one on. I'll turn this one on as well later on so you can see the screen. So this is the boot up screen. Like I say, this is running a version of Linux. So it does have a boot up process, and this was before proper flash memory, so it's not particularly quick. But there we go. So that's the basic interface. So it's quite clear. There we go. I think that's probably the best I can get it. But yeah, so you have your time here and any information. So you've got emails and voicemails that would pick that up. Now, most people tended to disable the email collecting service because if you left it on every time it phoned up the line, it actually cost you money. So it was much more cost effective to turn it off. But there's all kinds of things, like weird things. They're very... well, it's from the year 2000, but they're kind of almost like 90s style things, like prank calls and stuff. And if we go into the services menu, so you get these options. So you've got the adult things, like the adult chat sites and stuff, which it just feels like a very 90s thing. And yeah, so psychic tarot lines and a Google search engine with chat rooms and yeah, all sorts of things. But if we get out of that menu and then press the gaming menu, so there you go, the Sinclair ZX Spectrum Game Center. So obviously Amstrad purchased the rights to the Sinclair name and hardware for the Spectrums, and they reused it several times, including like in PC designs and all sorts of things. But this is effectively an emulation of the Sinclair Spectrum, and you can't just install games on it. You had to download them at the time, which is the reason why I can't show anything much here. So if we just choose, like, say, arcade shoot-ups, it tells you how many blocks there are, how many blocks you've got available, and you can just download them, but you can't keep them. So basically, yeah, so this is the cost at the time of when this was last used. To download like Galaxians, it was 50p for 4 days, or £1 for 4 weeks. So you couldn't keep any of these games. They would run out at some point. I mean, there's all sorts of games like Bubble Bobble. So Bubble Bobble, it's still the same price, to be fair to it, even though Bubble Bobble's a much bigger game to, say, Galaxians. It still costs the same, but it's an odd renting system, which you literally, because you obviously you have to literally sit here and play these games as well. You can take it anywhere else to play them on this small screen. Very weird. But yeah, I'll quickly power up the other one. Do we zoom out? And I'll quickly power this one up so you can just see the The screen is, well, it's hard to tell. It doesn't seem to be bad quality. Again, it's running Linux or Linux, so it's got a boot up service, and then you can see the problems with the lines. Now, the fact that it kind of changes and gets worse over time suggests to me it's more of an electrical problem than it is a problem with the screen itself. So I will be taking a look at some of the contacts and just checking capacitors and stuff. So this might be fixable yet. It's not a terribly hard machine to take apart either, which is good. Like I say again, I've got no problem with Amstrad's build quality. It's usually fairly okay. It's just this idea of waiting until something was cost effective before trying to make it. And the way things work is if something's cost effective, it tends to mean that it's no longer actually new or even useful sometimes. Right. So yeah, this is hard to read because it's all messed up, but it's got the similar things. If I hit games, it's got again the same menu and the same prices and stuff as that. So back out of that. And yeah, so if I hit the video, it'll turn on the camera. So you can't see much, but that's me. Hey. Which you probably can't see at all, but it's all messed up as well. But yeah, I mean, they're interesting devices. If they'd been released, say, like even 5 years earlier than they were, they might have succeeded much better, because the internet really was still becoming like really popular in the UK at that point. So yeah, it's just an odd, odd machine, but they are kind of wonderful, and I do like them, and I will somehow get these things working slightly better, so I can at least try some of the Sinclair games out, because I would be interested in how they work, especially on this screen, which is it's not exactly monochrome, is it? It's just a very like minimal colour device. It's got a bit of burn in there. I thought, well, maybe that's just going as well. But yeah, I will get that working just so I can see what they look like and how they play, because it would be, I think it'd be interesting. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like the video, please hit like. If you really like the video, please hit subscribe. If you didn't like the video or you've got some other comment to make, then please leave it below. See you next time.